Now that we have our permissions set up, we have our roles set up, the next table that I want to work on is the users table. So let's go ahead and set it up so that we have a controller, a route, and that we can get to it and manipulate it and do all those different things to it. If we head over into our text editor and we go and take a look, we have our database because we have the default user table in here. And that's fine. We don't really need to change anything. We also have a factory in case we need it, as well as a seeder in case we need it, but we do not need it. The only thing that we really don't have is the controller. We do have a user model, and that's what we're going to use to basically be leveraged in this controller. So I'm going to open up the terminal, and then I'm going to do sail artisan, make controller. I'll call it, well, I'll say admin, and then it'll be user controller. We'll make it resourceful, and the model I want to use the user model. So let's close that. And we have it right here. As you can see, anything that we need to do, we're not going to be using every route in here, obviously, but we do have root model binding set up with that, where we have the user being injected into the functions. So let's go ahead to the web route first, and we're going to go ahead and make that. So I'm going to copy this one here. I'll put it here. We'll say users. This will be user controller. Index admin users index. We'll just go up here. And then we'll go ahead and change this one to user controller. Let's go ahead to that user controller. And we'll create that route. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it from, let's say, this one for now. Then we'll change the things we don't need. So this will still be inertia render. This will be user index, or let's do users. For this, I'm just going to comment these out. For now, we're going to need the user roles, but for now, we'll just try to get the users to display. And then we'll just say user. We're already importing that. We don't need to import it. For now, we'll just say users get. So let's go ahead and create that Vue index file. So we'll say user or users index.vue. Then we'll go ahead and copy this one. Put it in here. And then we'll change what we don't need. So again, I'm going to comment these out. And here I'll just change this to users array. We're also going to comment all this stuff out. I don't want to manipulate anything with this yet. I just want to be able to see this page. We'll hide the button for now, just because we commented out all of those functions. And this should be good for right now. This will be props, users, and I'm also going to comment out these permissions because we're not going to be looking for permissions in there. Comment out the buttons. We'll just comment all of this out. Let's go to the sidebar. And I just realized that we don't have a link to our dashboard yet. This will make it easier for us to navigate. That's just to the admin dashboard route. And let's see, I'm going to put the users under these permissions here. And instead of this being to permissions, users index, and this permissions will also be users. Okay, let's go and see what we have. And we made a lot of changes, so I'm going to refresh that and see if we get any errors, and we shouldn't, but if you hover, we have this user link here. And of course, I forgot to import this into the controller. So here we'll go to the user controller, import inertia, save it, and try it again. We'll deal with this in a minute. That's just because I commented out something at the bottom of this page. Let's see, we're on the users page. So let's go and fix this. So here we can go to the users index. See, this is where I had those two sets of arrows. So get rid of that. We have users coming in. Right now we have them coming in as an array. We are looping over the props.users, item ID, item name. And because this is coming from Laravel itself with our default user model, we don't actually have a display name here. Instead of that, I'm going to get rid of this class. And instead of that, we can put email. I'm going to get rid of the description because we don't have that either. But we do have the created at, and that should be good for right now. So let's save that and make sure that we at least have those user fields coming in. Okay, good. So we have the user name. We can get rid of the header for this description. This permissions, we're going to change to roles. We'll deal with that in a bit, as well as changing it to the human readable. So let's go and start with removing this, and then we'll change the created at. Here we can come up to these and we'll move the description. And then this one will change to email. This is going to be roles because we're going to be displaying the roles and not the permissions on this. Let's go ahead and go to we'll grab it from in here. And we might actually have a cast in here ready. Yeah, so I'm going to grab this one. And I think this is how they're doing it now. Good to know. I didn't know that, but maybe I'll start using that. So let's go and see what we have on the front end. Since we made a change on the server, I do want to change that. Our created at is here, our email is here correctly. We have the correct titles. We don't have any buttons yet because we commented those out, but let's go ahead and deal with getting the roles in here. Okay, let's head over to that user controller and let's take a look. Here we're doing the roles with the permissions, so really we could do that with the roles as well. So I'm going to copy this one. And instead of permissions, it'll be roles get, which means that we can get rid of this one for right now. And then I also want to make this latest, just so that we can have them listed from the most recent to the oldest. So we have our roles coming in here. Let's go to the users index and get that to display. So I'll uncomment this. We'll come here. This will be role. Item roles, because we're looping over the users here. This before loop is for item and users, and then that individual item we're going to do for role in item roles, and then this will just be role name. Each of these users, we're listing them from the latest, but we also have the email and the roles in here. Remember, this is just for the standard users, so every user in this table should only be a standard user. We shouldn't have any of these admins in this list. Just like when we get ready to do the admin table, we don't want regular users in that admin table. So how can we do this? Well, let's go and add a check in our controller. We'll go to user controller. We don't have an isAdmin or anything indicating that these users are admin admins or not. We only have the roles associated with them. So if we come here to our users table, you can see we don't actually have that. What can we do? Well, we could either directly add an isAdmin field to this database and then just reset the database to include that field, or we can just create a new migration to have it separate. What I in particular like to do is go to the terminal, and then here I can do sail artisan, make migration, and then I'll just create this supplemental table. So it'll say add isAdmin to users table. Press enter, and as you can see, it's been created. Now, something I do like doing that is that it also adds the timestamp in the beginning so that it has the timestamp of this new migration in the table. Because as you can see here, these are listed in some kind of order. Well, they're listed by the order of when they were created. So if now we go over here, you can see that that is the last table that we have listed in here. The reason that that's important is because these migrations are run in order. Let me see if I can open this up a bit. So when you get the default migrations, the users table is run first, and then all of the tables after it, it means something. Now we have personally created this LARATRUST setup tables when we installed LARATRUST, and now this is being added after that. As you can see here also, when you do that, when you say add isAdmin to users, it associates this new table with the users table. And so users table is already in here, which I think is a pretty cool little function. The other thing that I like about doing it this way is that as your project grows and you say, okay, well, I need this field in this users table, whatever the field is, you know, however you're building your project. As your project grows, this allows you to be able to grow with your project. That's why I like doing something like this as well. It just is, it makes things very flexible. So here we're going to say table. Now this field is going to be a Boolean field. And then we're going to look for isAdmin. Some people also like to do it like this, or however you want to do it. It doesn't really matter. This is just my preferred way of doing it. And so that's what I'm showing you. Now, where do we want to put this isAdmin? I want to put it after the ID on the users table. It'll show up right next to the ID. And then as a default, I want to set it to 0 so that now any users that get created, we'll deal with the authentication later. But for now, just know that whenever we create a user, their default isAdmin status will be 0. For us, since this is a Boolean, if you are an admin, then this value will be 1. If you are not an admin, this value will be 0. If you're a new user that's being created, then your isAdmin will be default set to 0. After we do that, we do need to drop the column. And the column is admin. Now this is good because anytime you're working on these projects and let's say you have to refresh the entire database, that means that all of these new fields that we create will also be remigrated with your database. So whenever you migrate it, you will have this isAdmin field. And if you bring it back down, it's going to drop that isAdmin so that this field is no longer in that database. This just kind of is built-in insurance for that. Let's go over to the user model. And I want to make sure that that field is added in here. We'll have to make some changes along the way later on, but for now, this is good. So let's head back into that user controller where we initially started to work with this. Now in here, we're not only going to be looking for the latest user. We're going to say where, we're just going to chain this on, isAdmin is 0. And I think this is good. We'll go ahead and take a look and make sure that we didn't break anything. We need to run that migration. See, we would have broken something. Again, I'm not remigrating the table, so I'm just going to do migrate so that we can get that new table in there. And we did that without an error. So let's refresh and see how this is going to go. Well, actually, that backfired a bit. And the reason is none of these users that we have in here have an isAdmin field in them. This isn't going to help us. So we will actually have to remigrate. I have completely forgotten about that. So let's go and deal with that. What we can do is go to our, get rid of this. We have this LARATRUST seeder in here, and we are creating users in here. So we can just add that field to here. And because the majority of these are admins, we're going to just say 1. And let's just check the config real quick to make sure that I did not break that. No, this is fine. No, this is fine. So let's go ahead and remigrate this. Now let's go ahead and refresh. And now we have nobody in here. So what's going on? If we go to our database and we go to tables, users, if we take a look at that, we set this up so that each user has is admin of 1 because everyone except for this user is an admin. So we can just manually change this in here. Set that to 0, apply, close, and now that user has an is admin status of 0. Now if we come back here and refresh, now we only have that one user who has the is admin of 0, and they're only a standard user, so that's the only one that we're seeing on here. Now that we're able to display our standard users, we have to start thinking about what we want to do. Typically, when I make these admin panels or any project really for this channel, even though at the beginning of the videos it says it's for educational purposes, people have a habit of downloading the code, putting it in production, and thinking that they are completely done, which is not the case. There are certain things that I do to keep you from doing something really dumb, and that's why I set up these admin panels the way I do, which means that we're not going to have a create button. I don't want to be able to create users through here. I want users to create accounts on the front end, the normal standard way with the register page, and go through it like that. If they want to change anything, they can change it in the profile, and if not, then we can manually change it from the database. Now, if you've done this, but you've gone ahead and added those buttons for yourself, please don't email me asking me why someone has changed all your user passwords to password as a text, because I'm just not going to respond to that. Okay, so take that as you will. I want to go ahead and set that up so we can edit this user. Let's go ahead and start with fixing this user's index. Well, I'm going to get rid of permissions from here. I'm going to leave all of this for now, except for create. We don't need this create button here. As I said, we're not going to be using it. And these buttons, we're not going to need delete. We'll just use the open edit. Now, when we go ahead and uncomment this out, I don't even know where this is coming from. I'm just going to get rid of that. Here, we don't actually need a form title anymore. We can just say edit current role. Just click prevent. So we're going to need the close mode. Fine. Check mode. We don't even need this anymore. We'll just say update or edit user. That'll be the name of our function. This isn't going to matter. We're not going to need any validation classes on this because this isn't going to matter. But we are going to make it disabled. And here, I'll get rid of this as well. Again, because we're not going to be using validation. And Vue-Model, we'll just be able to see it. We won't be able to do anything with it. So let's get rid of these as well. We're not going to need validation on here, so get rid of that. And let's see, I want to put on here disabled so that we have that. I can get rid of this one. And we're going to hold off on the multi-select here. And the close modal button text will be update. So let's go ahead. I'm going to copy this one so that we can see email. This one is going to be type of email, form email. Let's go ahead up to the top and then we'll start working our way down. So we have users, roles will come at some point. I'm just going to uncomment the edited index and the edit mode for now. We need the form. We have a name, email, and that's it. I'm going to comment this out because this is going to be for roles. We've gotten rid of the form title, button text, check mode, open modal. But we do need close modal here. And I'm going to comment these out just because we're not using them yet. Well, actually, we're not going to be needing that, but I'll uncomment that in case. So we have open edit. This should be props users, name, email, and again we'll comment that out because we're going to be using that to loop over our roles. Name slug slugify, no thank you, and then create role. Get rid of that as well. Here, edit role. This will be edit user. And I'm going to comment this out just for right now, just until we see what we see. Let's go down just to be sure. We have our roles looping over. That's good. That's good. And then all we'll have to deal with is the roles. I'm going to go ahead and save that and let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. Because I removed those arrows, I put them in the wrong spot. There we go. We're still back at this, but now we can open this and we have our username and our user email, and we can't actually edit anything in there because these are disabled. Close that. Let's head over to the route so we can set that up, and then we'll start working on some functionality for this edit. Let's go ahead and go over to the web route. And as I said, since we're only going to be updating these users, we're only going to need one more function, and that is patch. That's the route. So here I'm going to do slash, and then we'll add our user because once again, root model binding, update, update. Our web routes are done. Let's go over to the user controller. Before we do that, I actually do want to get these roles to display as well before I forget. So here we'll do roles. And so just like we did with permissions for the roles, we're going to do the same thing for roles for the user. This is going to be user, or sorry, role. And again, all we need is the ID and the name, and I do need to import that. This is going to be from our app models role. Save. Let's close some of these out. Go up top and make sure we have them. So instead of permission options, this will be role options, roles. Then this will be selected roles. roles, item roles. I'm going to go ahead and do that. This will be edit users update. User has been updated. That should be good. We have a role name in there. Cool, cool, cool. So we'll come down here. Now we can uncomment this just so that we can see that list of roles that this user has. Now in here, we can just change this theme model to selected roles, role options. Now again, the way that I envision this is only to set it up so that each user only has one role. This we can change to false. Taggable we can leave true. All of this stuff is the same, but for placeholder, it'll be pick a role. You know what? I'm going to leave validation on this one. Let's go back to that user controller. Here, I just want to die and dump. We'll just die and dump the request all and see what that leaves us. Let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to go ahead, refresh this. We'll click edit. This user does have, oh, I need to change that label as well. But let's say we make them into a super admin update and we're getting the ID, the name, and then the ID and the name of the selected role. Let's change this label. I might add some padding on here at some point too, because I don't know if you can see, but there's no padding in here. Right now, I'm just gonna pretend like that doesn't exist. Right, so let's change this label first. Let's head over to the user controller and start fleshing out this function. Now, why don't we go ahead and go to the role controller, and I'm going to copy this from the update function because most of it is the same. We can make changes as we go along, but the bulk of it is the same. So go ahead, paste that in. And then for request validate, the only thing that we're going to need is the roles that are coming in with the user because we're not changing anything else. So this is going to say roles. And I just want it to be required. We'll make the custom message for it too. If I can copy this. Selected roles required, and this one will be the roles field is required. Now this stuff isn't going to matter. This role update, it's not really going to matter. Or user update really isn't going to matter. Not there anyway. Well, what is it that we really want to see? Well, first we want to see whether or not in that modal that user has been changed to an admin in any way. So if they were changed to a moderator or a developer, or if they were changed back into a user for whatever reason. So we need to check for that use case. So what we can do, I'll actually get rid of this. I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call this one current role. And I'm going to say that that equals user roles. And again, since we're only using the first role, because we're only giving these users one individual role, but because this package has a belongs to many relationship, it's flexible enough to allow you to do this. We're just basically looking for the first one. If we say if, then I want to also put if else. I don't know if I have one of those. We'll try that. There we go. If not is set, request selected roles, and then we're going to be looking for the first one, and then we're going to be looking for the ID within that first one. Then we want to create a variable, and we'll call it admin role. And we'll say the admin role equals role where ID equals request selected roles. Then we're looking for the first one, and again, we're looking for the ID. First, we're basically going to be using this variable to plug into another check, but first we need to assign this admin role something. If it has been changed, then whatever that first selection is going to be assigned to this admin role. I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to paste it here and say else this admin role. And actually I messed this up. Let me explain this again. If it's not set, the selected role ID, meaning it has been changed, it is something else, and then we are grabbing the first selected role because we're pulling it from the front end, not as an array. So I'll say has been changed. And if it is, has not been changed. So basically, for this admin role variable, we're just checking to see whether or not it was changed in the modal. If it was changed in the modal, then it's going to grab whatever that first selected role is. If it hasn't been changed in a variable, then it'll be part of an array. And so we're going to grab the first one, the ID, basically whatever the user has at the moment. And then we just need that use case so that it doesn't throw up an error. There is something in that field. We'll say if, I want to do an else if. Else if. Let's do if. We'll do it like that. If the current role, which is a variable that we created, ID, does not equal 5. There are loads of ways to do this. You have to remember, unless it needs to be more complicated, then don't make it more complicated. Just keep it simple. I know that the ID in my project, the user ID is 5. Everything else has its own ID, but the user role ID is 5. So I'm going to also fix this to be current role. The current role ID of this user, we are in the user controller dealing with users. If the current role for this user does not equal 5, which it should just equal 5, but if it doesn't, and I want to put and the admin role does not equal 5, which it shouldn't because the admin role isn't 5. This should be a completely ridiculous use case, but it is a potential use case. We just want to make a check for it. Then we'll say user update is admin equals 1. Now, why would I put this in here? Well, do you remember when we were trying to reseed this database? We were trying to seed this database with these user is admin migration. One of our users, there is admin, was equal to 1. Even though we know that they are not users, that's because it's just the way that our seeder worked. Potentially that is a use case. Like I said, it's a ridiculous use case, but it is a use case nonetheless. That is something that I want to be able to check in my project in case I decide to put this in production, and in case I know that that standard user has an is admin equals 1. I want to be able to change it from this table on the front end without having to go to the database because it's such a simple, easy check that we can do here. So we'll do that, and then we'll say else if. Let me copy this one. Else if current role ID equals 5 and admin ID role does not equal 5. It is, for whatever reason, if the current role ID, which is the current user that we have, if they are a standard user, meaning the ID associated with their role is 5, and the admin role that we're looking for up here doesn't equal 5, meaning it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 super admin moderator developer. This is where we're changing that. I'm going to copy this. And that's going to be one thing that we can do is make there is admin equal 1. And then the user sync roles. We can now use that admin role ID. Here we can just send this back to the user's index. To run through this really quick, because I know that was a lot, we have a current role variable up here, and the current role is for whatever user we're trying to make changes to. We're grabbing the first role associated with that user, and because our users are only going to have one role, this is why we need to search for just the first one. If we didn't put this here, then it would just grab all of the roles associated with the user, but that's not how we set it up on the front end, so that's not going to work here. Here we're saying if the request selected roles, which is coming from the front end, coming through that Vue-Multiselect, if the request selected roles, the first one has an ID, if that is not set, meaning it has been changed, we've changed it to something else altogether, then we're going to attach it to this admin role variable. Then we're going to create this admin role variable, and we're going to say where the ID equals the selected roles ID first, because we are grabbing one individual role. We're not grabbing the array of roles. And that's what we're saying, is that it's been changed. So we do need to grab that role just to see what it was. If it hasn't been changed, then that means it's going to be in an array, because as I said, this package belongs to many relationships. This is already an established relationship where the selected roles, it's already in an array. So we need to grab it and then just grab the first one and then assign that to the admin role. So we're checking for those use cases. Now, if the current role ID does not equal 5, they are not a standard user. If we've passed through here, we'll have two different variables. We'll have a current role and an admin role. So we need to check for two different things with those variables. The first is the current ID. If the current role ID does not equal 5, meaning we are on the users table, we have a set of users where the role ID equals 5, meaning it's not a user, so they're a moderator in our users table, for example, and the admin role ID, which is whatever's being requested, does not equal 5, meaning it does not mean that they're a user. It means that we've changed them to being a moderator or whatever. Then we just want to make sure that this isAdmin field is updated, because that's a reason why they're on a user page when they shouldn't be. And we just want to make that change. Now, this one is if the current role ID equals 5, meaning they are already a user, and the admin role that we're pulling in when we're using that Vue-Multiselect does not equal 5, meaning we're saying that they're some sort of moderator, developer, or whatever, then we can sync the roles using that admin role, whichever was the one we grabbed from here. We're syncing it to that user. We're updating that isAdmin equal to 1. And don't forget, when a user registers, their isAdmin is going to be 0. And that's the whole reason why we have this isAdmin field in the database, so that we can loop over those specific users in this users page instead of the admins. When we get to the admins, we will account for the admins, but for now, we are only accounting for the users who have an isAdmin of 0. So let's go on the front end and see if this works. Let's go ahead and refresh that. So again, we're using the user controller to display our standard users. We have a role of user, which means their isAdmin is also 0. So we'll go ahead, edit, and as you can see, the role is in here. I want to change them to, let's say, a moderator. So this one will have, I think it's a ID of 3. Don't remember off the top of my head, but go ahead, update. User has been updated and they are no longer on this. They're just not here anymore because we changed the isAdmin, so they're not going to be displayed here. They should be displayed in the admin controller, but we haven't set that up yet, so we're not going to see them here. But one place we can check is the database. So here we are at the database. As you can see, this was where we manually changed the isAdmin to 1. They're a user. And let's go ahead and refresh this. I don't know if that's going to work, but go ahead and refresh the table. Close this. Open this back up. And you can see that user is back to having isAdmin of 1. If we go to our role user table, that user ID was 5. And now they have a role ID of 3. Well, what's a role ID of 3? Role ID of 3 is moderator. That's exactly what we changed them to. Let's go ahead, put that back. This user ID of 5, we're going to set this back to the role ID of 5, which is the user ID. And then if we come to our users table, we'll set this back to 0. Now, if we come back here and we refresh, this user is back here. If we go to edit, let's say we just leave it as user update, then that user hasn't been sent back anywhere. They're still in our table and they still have the isAdmin is true. And not only that, they also have the role of user. So we haven't changed anything with that user, but we have accounted for all those use cases. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button, as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.